I call today's meeting of the Public Service Committee to order. Madam Secretary, please take our roll.
Representative Alexander, Dixie, Eldridge, Johnson, Kiesling, Powers, Chairman Rudder. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Do we have any personal orders or recognition from any of our members? Seeing none, we'll now take up our regular calendar. Item number 1 is House Bill 1382 by Chairman Reagan. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Chairman,
thank you, Madam Chair and Committee. I bring before you today a simple, straightforward bill. Basically, all it does is add public safety dispatcher to the sections of TCA where death benefits for emergency personnel are described. Essentially, what it does is give emergency dispatchers the same benefits as other emergency service personnel if they die in the line of duty. Public safety dispatchers' ability to respond quickly and coordinate emergency personnel to the scene of an accident can mean the difference between life and death for those they are serving. However, even though they're just as crucial as some of the responders like firefighters and the police, a lot of overlooked problem exists in that they are also subject to some of the same stresses. That stress is cumulative. I have personally had family members who've performed dysfunction, and I myself have done some of it when I was in the military. I can tell you the stress is real, and it is something that takes an impact on health. All this bill is designed to do is that if it does impact some of them, and I will point out that indeed some of the other people I mentioned, like firefighters, police officers, and so forth, step out of field work and into this kind of work. So they bring some of that stress with them when they do that. Nonetheless, like I said, it's simple and straightforward. I encourage you, if you would please, to pass this bill to full committee. With that, I stand ready to answer questions, Madam Chair.
Do we have any questions from any of our members? Seeing none, I guess we're ready to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Committee.
You're most welcome. Item number 2 is House Bill 611 by Chairman Hawk. You have a motion and a second. Chairman, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Currently, the Tennessee State Employees Uniform Nepotism Policy Act of 1980 prohibits direct supervision by one relative of another within a state governmental entity or agency. House Bill 611 clarifies that employees of state governmental entities who are compensated through funding sources other than this state are subject to the Tennessee State Employees Uniform Nepotism Policy Act of 1980 as well. There's a creation of both criminal and civil penalties for state employees who knowingly or intentionally violate this act. And lastly, it authorizes the Attorney General and reporter to investigate violations of this act. Specifically, this bill comes to me from Senator Gardenhire and some other folks who he has been working with on this bill.
Do we have any questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 611. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Chair, Lady, and members.
Next up is item number 3, House Bill 562 by Chairman Todd. You have a motion and a second. Chairman, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill comes...
You do have an amendment, correct?
Yes, I do. Drafting Code 4146.
Do we have a motion and a second on the amendment? Do I hear a second? A second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. You want to explain your amendment?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. This amendment rewrites the bill, and this solves a problem that I discovered several months ago visiting with some of my local National Guard
Well, let's
members.
go ahead and put your amendment on the bill. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? The amendment goes on the bill. Now, please explain it.
I learned from our local Guard members that some of them have some difficulties when they're deployed on emergency responses or other types of state deployment in getting their pay. There's a delay. They have to work a period of time, usually a couple of weeks, depending on the timing of the deployment, and then it goes in to be paid, and then there's a couple of week delay, and so they may be a month without any pay. and sometimes officers will pitch in and loan them money until they get paid, and it's just a real struggle for some of these. And so what we found, we worked with Department of Human Resources and found out that there's a mechanism that we can employ here, but we need to put it in statute so that we're not doing anything improper with pay for employees of the state. And so what this does, it allows the members of the National Guard to accrue their pay once they're being ordered on active state service. The payment of the compensation to the members must use the state's established weekly pay cycle to effectuate their compensation. So this just allows them to be paid weekly, so their pay gets in a little quicker and they get paid a little quicker than they are now. So should alleviate a problem that I wasn't even aware of until just a couple of months ago.
Do we have any questions for the sponsor? Okay, now we'll vote on House Bill 562. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Your bill moves on to full committee. House Bill, next up is item number 4, House Bill 1160, and that has been rolled for 1 week. Item number 5 is House Bill 1492. 1492, Chairman Representative Clemens. Do we have a motion and a second? Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and committee. This bill is pretty straightforward. This just seeks to prevent the weaponizing of drones by law enforcement.
You do have a drafting code?
Oh,
Do you
yes,
have an
sorry.
amendment,
Drafting code 3771 makes the bill. That's the amendment.
Do we have a motion and a second on the amendment?
Second.
All in favor of putting the amendment on the bill?
Aye.
Amendment goes on the bill. Go ahead and explain your bill.
Sorry, Madam Chairman. The bill simply, it doesn't change anything in current law. It just simply says law enforcement agencies shall develop and enforce a policy that prohibits the weaponizing of drones. What we have concerns about is, quite honestly, the increased militarization and the possibility of misuse of drones. There had been proposals in the past year about putting tasers on drones in some, and the companies that had proposed those even walked back from them after receiving a lot of blowback, quite honestly. Violence against anyone by law enforcement, there's a big human element to that. And once you remove that and that decision-making element, it gets really concerning. We got a lot of arguably over-policed communities, and if you if you allow the weaponizing of those drones, I think that you're going to create a recipe for disaster. So that's it, Madam Chair.
Do we have any questions for our sponsor? Chairman Kiesling.
Thanks, Chair Lady. Chairman, did I understand you to say we had some over policing? Did I understand that correctly?
Well,
and if so, if that's correct, could you explain, please?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a concern among many throughout many of our communities. But this bill doesn't necessarily attack that. That is an overlying variable here. The bigger issue is the weaponizing of drones in any community. But this would allay the concerns of everybody across the state of Tennessee. I think anytime you take the human element out of using a weapon of any kind and remove kind of that human interaction, especially when you're dealing with law enforcement, I think you're really running a lot of risk there. I mean, from anything from putting a taser to, even other weapons, I think we go down a slippery slope. You've seen a lot of regulations be put in place on this, even at the military level, but that's a whole different ballgame. This is just simply for law enforcement. I don't think the weaponizing of drones is something that we want to allow in our state for many reasons.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Okay, so Again, you stressed just in that it was strictly for policing, obviously, and I forgot my iPad. I haven't looked at didn't get an opportunity to look at the amendment. Doesn't include any, can't include military, would not include anything, any form of the military, right?
No, sir, and it simply says, and I'll just read it to you. It says, by January 1st, 2024, each law enforcement agency shall develop and enforce a policy that prohibits an officer from using a drone or other substantially similar device as a weapon under any circumstances while in the exercise of the officer's official duties, specifically with regard to law enforcement, no military.
Representative Alexander. Oh,
Follow up, please. Thank you, Chair Lady. So, has there been any ask for testimony from law enforcement, Chair Lady?
no.
None? Oh, okay. Then that concludes. And thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative
Thank you,
Alexander.
Chairman.
You're recognized.
Have you spoken with the law enforcement concerning this?
Yeah, I've received no concerns about this. There is no law enforcement weaponizing drones right now in the state of Tennessee, to my knowledge, and I don't know that there's even a plan to, because it's such a controversial topic, and
Right.
you run into so many ethical dilemmas with that. And so I've received no feedback whatsoever from the law enforcement community. I generally receive a lot of feedback when I introduce legislation, and this one I've just been eerily silent.
Okay. So if we don't not had any in Tennessee, are you just putting this in as a preventive measure?
Yeah,
Have we had other states that are seriously considering such weapons?
well, like I said, it's been proposed. Last year, about June of last year, there was a proposal to apply tasers to drones. And, I mean, you already see instances where tasers are arguably overused, and taser use is challenged sometimes, whether rightfully or wrongfully. But that proposal was on the table. A company named Axon even proposed that on, I think, June 4th of 2022, and by June 6th, they walked that back and said that they didn't plan to do that because their board of directors almost resigned over it. So I don't think it's necessarily a growing trend, but it is one that is available out there. And also, I mean, if you really want to get kind of futuristic, I guess, for lack of a better term, when you start heading down the AI road and you start having AI-controlled drones that may be employed by law enforcement, then you run into a whole other series of possibilities. So it's just a really slippery slope. I think we want to nip in the bud at the outset.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Seeing none, you have no questions, no more questions. Okay, so now we're ready to vote. All in favor of, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it, and your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you, committee.
You're welcome. Next up is House Joint Resolution 95 by Chairman Littleton. You have a motion and a second, and you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. HJR 95 encourages the members of the General Assembly to join the Taiwan Caucus and welcome the establishment of a Tennessee Trade Office in Taiwan, and urges the signing of an education cooperation memorandum of understanding with Taiwan aimed at promoting Mandarin English language teacher and student exchanges, and supports the United States Taiwan initiative on the 21st century trade and negotiations on a bilateral trade agreement.
Thank you for that explanation. Do we have any questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Okay. We're ready to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and it moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair and
You're
Committee.
welcome. Next, we have item number 7, which is House Bill 884. Have a motion and a second. Chairman, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And there's an amendment on this bill. It's Amendment 3775.
We don't have that amendment. We don't have the amendment, sir.
interesting. It came out of Council on Pensions. Treasurer was just here. I can go ahead with the bill. And this bill as amended, well, it won't be amended, changes current law to provide an additional way to handle benefits improvements. The current law provides if local government establishes a benefit improvement such as a cost of living increase, the local government has two ways of paying for that. They can do it in lump sum, or they have to pay it in the next fiscal year. This bill would provide a third alternative, which would let them amortize over 10 years, provided that the funding is their plan doesn't fall below, the bill says 60%. The recommendation of Council on Pensions was 70%. It has a hook if local government or state government fails to pay the estimated pension liability, then the state can withhold shared taxes. But that's basically what the bill does. It provides a third option to fund that liability over 10 years from time that benefit's been established. But I apologize for the amendment not being here today. So.
Chairman Keesling?
Thank you, Chair Lady. So procedurally, what
Yeah.
do we do here?
Looks like I'll be rolling this bill and bringing it back.
You may have.
Matt Money for the record from legal. I would suggest that. I think the amendment, I looked at it, it makes the bill, so I don't know
Yeah, it
that we could
rewrites
really
the bill.
proceed properly without getting it
So I
put on the bill.
apologize, Madam Chair
next
Lady,
week.
and I apologize to the committee.
Okay, thank you. We'll roll this bill for 1 week. Item number 8, House Bill 1164, has been rolled for 1 week. Next up is item number 9, House Bill 540. Representative Harris. We'll roll this to the Hill. Next, we have item number 10, House Bill 1437. Representative Mitchell. Do we have a motion and a second? Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Hey, thank you, Madam Chairman. This is just a bill to make the song Copperhead Road one of the state songs. If this passes, it will be one of the other 10 state songs that have already been adopted by the state. And I'm here for any questions you may have.
You're ready for questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Chairman Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is Copperhead Road in your district?
No,
Representative Mitchell.
it's up in my co-sponsor's district, Scotty Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any more questions for our sponsor?
I've got one.
Okay. Chairman Powers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could you hum a few bars for us?
Yes.
Well, that's why I had Scotty as a co-sponsor, because I can't sing, and I thought I'd let him do that. Maybe he's coming soon, but
You've
maybe
disappointed
not.
us. You've disappointed
I know. I don't even play an instrument, so I can't even play the bagpipes or mandolin that this song has in it. So,
Do we have any more questions for our sponsor? Questions have been called. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Your bill moves on to full committee.
thank you, committee and chair lady.
Next up, we have item number 11, which is House Bill 1100. Representative Hakeem. You have a motion and a second. Representative, you're recognized. Oh, you also have an amendment on this bill, correct?
Ma'am, it's
Could you give us your code?
4119.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second on this amendment? We do. Chairman, you're recognized to explain your amendment.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. If you would permit me a few seconds, I would like to, give the panel some view of myself. One, this is dealing with police officers and the community, and the perception that some may have in regards to my perception of police. I have 3 officers in my family who have retired. I have a nephew now who is in law enforcement, and I have a grandson who is in law enforcement. In addition to that, no one can truthfully say to you that I have ever said defund the police, okay? And I just wanted to be clear. And what this bill does is provide some continuing education training in the curriculum dealing with race relations, cultural awareness, and providing curriculum for all the law enforcement agencies throughout the state. What we're saying is that what we think matters and what we're attempting to do is to have interaction between police and the persons they serve in the community, creating a better interaction so that some of the horrendous things that we've seen like that in Memphis would not occur anytime during our time in the legislature. And the governor has put forth a program where he put forth $300,000 in 2020 to deal with training and so forth, and I think he's going to looking at another $1.5 million. And so we are tempted to get post-commission to do this training. Now, what has been shared with me by Commerce and Insurance is that the post-commission doesn't provide this training. And then what was the other pieces? The training doesn't exist. But I also have on the, what do you call it, the fiscal note, it says that the post-commission already developed a diversity and cultural awareness training. So I don't know which way it is in regards to post-commission, but I have talked with some of the colleagues here where University of Tennessee provide this kind of training that we're talking about. And so we're saying if Post doesn't do it, University of Tennessee would do it. And I'm open to questions from you.
Do we have any questions for Representative Hakeem on the amendment? If not, let's get this amendment on the bill. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed, the amendment goes on the bill. You're recognized to speak about your.
I apologize. I don't. Yeah.
You're ready for questions because you
Yes, ma'am, ready
you
for
explained the
questions.
bill. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Chairman Kiesling.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Representative, there's no, I don't see a dollar sign here in front of anything when it comes to the physical note.
Mm-hmm.
Again, why don't we have a number here?
All I can tell you is that it says not significant.
Not significant.
Yes, sir.
A diversity training, if there's any training at all, I can't believe there wouldn't be cost incurred.
Well, I just shared with you what they've shared with me. Now, it all depends on, when I say who you talk to, the people with the fiscal note department says that the training is already developed. And then post-commission is saying that they don't do it. And then post-commission also said it doesn't exist. So I guess we need some clarity on that, but I was hoping that we could get it through subcommittee and work all that out before we go to.
Chair Lady.
Recognized.
All right, thank you, Chair Lady. Personally,
yes, sir.
I think we need to get this worked out before we move it out of here. I'm going to make a motion to roll this for two weeks, and until we can get this worked out, and get we need to get to the Post, involved in this some way, somehow. What do you? And I just put that in the form of a commission, but I think I'd like for you to recognize the Speaker Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we're going to
Defer to
roll
you.
it 2 weeks, I think we need to have Post in here and
Yeah,
maybe someone from Physical Review.
that's true. Right.
Yes, Representative Dixie.
Before you make that motion, because I know once you make the motion, it's final. I just had a quick question for him, if I could ask.
She needs to get a second.
We got to get a second on the motion. Okay, now you're recognized.
Yes.
You're recognized.
Okay. Forgot what my question was. I was thinking about the procedure, and I forgot what my question was. I think it was. I think it's for clarity. I just want to make sure what I'm hearing you is that the post commission does have the ability to do this training. They just don't do it at this particular time, and this would basically tell them that they need to do this commission. But part of this training is already developed. But I think there's a conflicting story of it's developed, but they're not using it, and we need to just work out and marry the two, if that's what I'm understanding.
That would be acceptable, but like I said, what I've been told, and there's a representative from Commerce and Insurance who's here, but that one instance they told me they don't do it. The second instance is that it doesn't exist, but like I say, on this fiscal note, it says that they've already developed it. So I don't have a problem with doing it today and getting the information you spoke of, and be willing to do that. Yes.
Chairman Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Did you tell Physical Review about the University of Tennessee?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay.
No, sir.
Was the University of Tennessee going to do this for free?
That I'm going to have to get for you.
Okay.
I'll get that.
All right, thank you.
I'll get that.
Okay, we're ready to vote on rolling this House Bill 1100 for 2 weeks. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members.
And thank you. House Bill 12 is up. Item number 12, House Bill 448 by Representative Davis. Motion. We have a motion and a second. Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Chair Lady.
And
I
you do-
appreciate y'all.
I see you do have an amendment.
Yes, ma'am,
Could
I
you
do.
give us that code?
And so that is 4149.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second? We have a motion and a second on the amendment. Could you explain your amendment for us?
Yes, ma'am. So the amendment actually allows for some exceptions with regard to the bill. We had one of the Tennessee Department of Health had some concerns with regard to public comment during some of their disciplinary hearings, so they wanted to ensure that that was carved out for them.
Okay.
So we wanted to accommodate them.
Does anybody have any questions about the amendment? Okay. All in favor of putting this amendment on the bill, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and the amendment goes on the bill, and you're recognized to explain your bill.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate y'all affording me the time to meet with y'all this morning. In practice, we have public comment at governing bodies in their meetings, but what we don't have is we don't have that codified in law. And so what this does to do is ensure that people have their First Amendment right to redress their government. It does allow for that governing body to determine time and place. So if the number of speakers, they can determine that. Also with respect to the time that's allotted for those individuals to speak, and then also to ensure that it's germane to the agenda. So we want to make sure that those folks that are coming forward are speaking to what's on the agenda items that is pertinent and relevant to that governing body.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Yes, Representative Eldridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Representative Davis, has there been an instance where a county commission or a city council has denied public comment? Or?
I have had some folks talk to me about it. When I asked them if they wanted to come forward and testify, they were concerned in some regards as to any sort of retaliation. And I think here lately we have seen a lot in the community where parents have not been able to speak or have been limited in their speech at different school board meetings. And so we're just wanting to ensure that that First Amendment right is protected.
Madam Chair.
You're recognized.
Thank you. And of course, I think you come out of county government too, didn't you? You know?
Yes, sir.
And we always, that was one thing that we always tried to do, was make sure that we did
Absolutely.
have public comment. And in fact, we had one at the beginning dealing with items on the agenda, and one at the end that was just for anything related to county business. And at some time, and we ended up doing that primarily because we had some people that just absolutely disrupted the meeting. And, you know, we were off on a bad foot from the get-go. And I mean, but you're still wanting to limit. I mean, they're setting a time limit.
Yes, sir. And they can also determine how people sign up for that public forum or that public comment. So if you need to sign up, you know, a week in advance or call the secretary's office, or however that manner is determined by that governing body, they can do that as well. So it's really just to ensure that public comment, that First Amendment right is protected, it's codified, but absolutely that governing body determines the manner in which people sign up to speak, that the issues that they speak to are germane to the agenda, the time, so in 3 minutes, 5 minutes, because you don't want someone standing up there and speaking for 20 minutes with regard to something that's not relevant to the agenda item.
You're recognized.
Does Robert's rules address anything about
well, that would
public
really
comment?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk out of
Oh,
turn.
yeah. You're fine.
It would really depend on the governing body if they chose to follow Robert's rules, or what their standing orders were, or how they determined that. But these are actually standard with regard to the reasonable restrictions. That's standard language in law with regard to public comment.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Any more comments? I mean, any more questions for our sponsor? Chairman Keesling?
Yes, thank you, Chair Lady. To those of you who have not seen the sponsor's signature, you're really missing something.
Oh.
That is the most beautiful handwriting I have, some of the most beautiful handwriting I've ever seen. Just as you asked, that's
You'll make
just a
my mother
compliment. Beautiful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair Lady.
Do we have any more questions? Seeing none, are we ready to vote? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it, and you move on to full committee.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time today.
Next
I'm
up,
her mentor, so if there's any question about how she learned how to write, yeah.
Next up is item number 13, HJR 45. It has been rolled for 2 weeks. Item number 14, House Bill 311, Representative Butler.
Motion. Second.
You have a motion and a second, and you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you. This is House Bill 311. This bill is fairly simple. What it does is it causes the state of Tennessee to strive, and I use that word intentionally, to award at least 5% of their state contracts to veteran-owned businesses. So I can't think of a better community of folks that we need to honor and serve as Tennesseans and as American citizens, but our United States veterans. And so this bill simply just encourages the state to strive to award at least 5% of those contracts to veteran-owned businesses.
Do we have any questions? Yes, Representative Dixie?
Right now, under the other Tennessee minority-owned woman, service-disabled, business-owned persons with disabilities, are there any, is there any requirement for them to strive for the 5% for those?
This bill would simply add, after women-owned, it would add the verbiage veteran-owned business.
Well, I guess my question is it already in law that those other ones are they strive to try to get to 5% in those classes?
I don't know that if it's 5%, but I believe it is. I don't want to tell you wrong. I believe it's just adding the verbiage veteran-owned business to all the other classifications.
Okay. Yeah, I just would like to really make sure, because I don't want to give them the opportunity. Not saying that my brother, he's a service disabled veteran and he owns a business, so he's in one of these classes too. But it's just that if we're going to give it to one of them, they all should have it. I'm not opposed to it, but I just want to make sure that that particular, because the way this reads, it doesn't say that those other classes.
Well,
but maybe if we could ask legal, and in that way, we won't have to guess.
We'll go into session, legal.
Thank you. Matt Mundy from Legal Services, and the word strive does appear in Title 12, Chapter 3 for public purchases under the Tennessee Minority-Owned, Women-Owned, Service-Disabled, Veteran-Owned Business Owned by Persons with Disabilities Act. And that is in 12/3/1104. It says that, sorry, this is a mouthful. All state agencies are required to actively solicit bids and proposals for equipment, supplies, et cetera, and so forth. I'm not going to read everything. In order to strive to obtain a fair proportion of procurements from any minority-owned business, women-owned business, service-disabled, veteran-owned business, business owned by persons with disabilities, or small business. So it seems to me that the objective of the public purchasing framework within the scope of this act is to have a fair proportion among those different groups in terms of procuring contracts. But there's no specific percentage, like a 5%.
So with this particular bill or this verbiage, add the 5%, and if it does add the 5%, would it be for all the classes or just for the veteran-owned?
If you just give me 1 second. I'm going to take a look at it, and then I'll get right back with you, okay?
Thank you.
You guys can go ahead and...
Okay, we're going to go back into session. Powell, yeah, we had one question and he left the room, so any more questions? You're recognized, Representative Alexander.
I'm sorry, I've just read something. The way the summary is written is this: Tennessee minority-owned, woman-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned. So then there would also be veteran-owned after that.
That is correct.
So you don't have to be a disabled veteran.
That is correct.
To
This would add veteran-owned.
Veteran, thank you.
So you wouldn't necessarily need to be a service-disabled veteran, but a regular veteran.
We're going to go out of session to hear from legal.
So, excuse me, Matt Money from Legal. The proportionality language is not impacted by the bill. The 5% strive language would be in addition to that. So it'd be to strive for 5% of the procurement contracts to go to veteran-owned businesses. But I think given the number of categories we have, 5% is obviously less than now. We have, what, 5 categories for procurement purposes? So a fair proportion would be roughly 20%. So we're under that in terms of comparing apples to apples and what they're trying to accomplish, I think. Does that make sense?
You're recognized.
Honestly, no, but it's just going to take me a second to digest what you're saying.
Let me try it a different way. So we have minority-owned, women-owned, service-disabled, veteran-owned, and small business-owned, and now we're adding veteran-owned without the disability portion. So we'll have 5 groups. And so if we had a fair proportion, roughly fair proportion of procurements divided equally among those 5 groups, it would be about 20% of the procurement contracts would go equally to those qualifying small businesses. And they're asking in this bill to strive for 5% to go to veteran-owned. So I think that's below what the fair proportion language would already require them to strive to do, if that makes sense.
You're recognized.
Oh, sorry. I understand what you're saying. Yeah, but if it's 5 groups and it's 20%, that means they'll get 5 and the 16 left over for the other 4. So that's 4% for everyone else. If I'm following you correctly.
Matt Manning
You're
from Legal.
recognized.
I'm looking at the total pie of
15%.
100%.
Sorry.
100% divided up 5 ways, so 20% per category, but we're only striving for the veteran-owned portion to be 5%. So it would be less than what they would, if we just added veteran-owned, the proportionality would be 20% instead of 5%,
Can I add?
if that makes sense.
Madam Chairman, can I add to that comment? I think some of these
Oh.
folks,
We're on the bill.
yes, ma'am.
Will we have,
Okay.
do we have any more questions for legal? If not, we'll go back into session. Now you're recognized.
I would add to his comments that some of these folks will probably fall into multiple categories. It could be a woman veteran that would fall under both categories. So it's not a law requiring 5% that says we have to award 5% of our contracts. It's simply saying the state is going to strive. Because as a veteran-owned business myself, we do work, and not that it's going to give me an advantage, but I think we should be honoring the folks that are providing the very freedoms that we're enjoying.
Well, another question? Okay. You're recognized, Representative Dixie.
Last comment, then I'm finished. Actually, I support the bill. I was just my question. I guess my interest was to make sure that I wish that we would require it, because there is an unlevel playing field when it comes to getting these contracts. So I would hope that we can kind of continue to work for that, and then that as Tennessee, I know a lot of municipalities have like a minority participation rate in their records, and I would hope that we can move toward that, and maybe we can make this a little bit stronger in the future, that where we can require rather than just strive. But thank you for bringing this bill.
Thank you.
Any more comments?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any questions? We're ready to vote on House Bill 311. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed signify by saying no. And we have, the ayes have it. It moves on to full committee.
Thank you,
And
Madam Chairman. And
You're
committee.
also up. Item number 15, House Bill 166. Do we have a motion and a second? Representative, you're recognized on your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This bill was brought to me by constituents, and so it applies just to state employees, and I need to clarify that so there's no confusion. But right now, and I don't want to read a whole lot of verbiage and bore you with a bunch of technical data, but right now, our National Guardsmen and anybody serving in the military that is a state employee that goes, that leaves to go serve our military right now does not accumulate sick and leave time. And I actually have with me, and I'll be glad to read it, under the retention and continuation of benefits through the Department of Human Resources, there is some ambiguity there on how we should address our veterans and military that are serving many times overseas. And so if you'll just indulge me a moment, I'll read this to you. During the period of leave without pay for military service, the employee shall retain the terms and condition of employment based on benefits he or she had on the date uniform service began, plus any terms and condition of employment-based rights and benefits the employee would have attained if he or she had continuously been employed in accordance with 20 CFR 1002.210, included but not limited to accumulated annual sick leave and retirement status, and continue to earn credit towards seniority and retirement. So right now, based on that, you would think, or one would think, that they would be able to accumulate their leave and sick time while they're serving in the National Guard. And so this bill simply resolves that ambiguity there and puts it into law that all state employees, while they're serving our National Guard and serving our country, would accumulate their sick and leave time.
Do we have any questions? Seeing none, we're ready to vote on House Bill 166. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. You move on to full committee.
Thank you, committee.
Item number 16, House Bill 302, has been rolled for 1 week. Item number 17, House Bill 1474, has also been rolled for 1 week. Now we're going to go back to item number 9. That's House Bill 540 by Representative Harris. Do we have a motion and a second? Representative, you're recognized to explain your bill.
Thank you, Chairwoman, and to the committee. House Bill 540, as introduced, would name the educational facility located on the campus of the John S. Wilder Youth Development Center, the Barbara Ward Cooper Education Center. That is all it will do.
Do we have any questions? No questions have been called. All in favor of House Bill 540, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Your bill moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you,
You're
committee.
welcome. Next, we take up item number 18. I'm getting there. 18, House Bill 174 by Representative Alexander. We have a motion and a second. Representative, please explain your
Thank you,
bill.
Chair Lady, and thank you, committee. This bill comes to us from the Treasury's office, and what this bill does is it clarifies that a member of the ORP, which is our optional retirement program, who returns to service on other than a full-time basis in a position covered by the ORP or the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System may continue or begin taking ORP distributions while reemployed. The reemployed ORP member shall be subject to the following work and compensation limits. The member must not work more than 120 days or its equivalent during a 12-month period, and the member's compensation shall not exceed 60% of their annual full-time salary received in the year immediately prior to the member's last paid day of covered employment, adjusted by 5% for each year since their last paid day or by such other percentages as may be determined by the state treasurer and the commissioner of human resources. In addition to the conditions outlined above, the reemployed ORP member shall not be eligible for additional contributions to their ORP account, shall not be entitled to establish retirement credit in the TCRS, and shall be subject to applicable federal and state laws and the ORP plan terms regarding in-service distributions. That explains my bill.
Do we have any questions?
Question on the bill.
Questions been called. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and you move on to full committee. I think that completes our calendar for today. Do I have a motion to adjourn? We are adjourned.